Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams team up to portray two Icelandic singers trying to win Europe's top prize. So the question is, does this comedy hit all the right notes? Here are my 2 cents. Hey guys, welcome back to another 2-cent reviews. This time I just watched Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga. It's brand new on Netflix and came out this week. And, I was in the mood to watch something fun and funny, and Will Ferrell has always been good at providing that. Rachel McAdams is also pretty good when it comes to comedy. So, these type of reviews, I kind of just like to go off the cuff and give you an honest opinion of how I feel about things and how the movie went and everything like that. So the premise of the movie basically is you have Will Ferrell, who plays Lars, and Rachel McAdams, who plays Sigrid, who are these two aspiring singers who formed a band together called Fire Saga. And pretty much they came together at a very young age when they were at home watching Eurovision, which is a very huge competition in Europe. Basically, it pits a bunch of singers, groups, and bands together to win the top prize, which each country within Europe vote for who their number one pick is. And before this movie, I had no idea Eurovision was an actual thing until I started to read up a little bit about it. And yeah, apparently it's been going on for over 60 years. And when they were making this movie, they had to get permission from the officials at Eurovision to get the okay to kind of parody them in a way, while still representing the essence of the contest. And the movie, from what I read, was supposed to originally come out in May, but because of the pandemic, basically, it kind of delayed things. And this year's Eurovision contest was supposed to be held in May as well, so it was supposed to coincide with the actual, live showing of the contest itself. But because of all things, it was officially canceled, but they still got to go ahead and release the movie on Netflix this week. So, again, doing the research, and it even shows it in the movie, back in 74, ABBA won the Eurovision contest, and that kind of what led the inspiration of a young Lars and a young Sigrid to form together to live their dream and one day win Eurovision. So fun fact for you guys, as I was looking through past winners of the Eurovision contest, I saw mostly European-based performers and groups, none of which kind of broke it internationally, at least in the mainstream. But back in 1988, young Celine Dion actually won the contest that year. So I just thought that was really interesting, and thought I would share it with you. But enough about the history lesson of Eurovision. How's the movie? So the movie itself, I thought, was pretty sweet and charming, and had a good amount of laughs, at least in the earlier stages of the movie itself. The backdrop of the movie is pretty much taking place in Iceland, and if you've been to Iceland, then you're very familiar with how the people are and how the landscape and scenery really steals a lot of moments within this movie. Will Ferrell and Sigrid, played by Rachel McAdams, they did their best to kind of fill in that Icelandic role. They have very unique accents and voices, which I think Rachel McAdams did a really good job. You could kind of get a hint of a Bjork in her when she talks at times, but they both, do their best to kind of portray the Icelandic people. And what's the great thing about the movie too is that it looks like they were able to include and employ a lot of local Icelandic people to be as extras within this movie, which is great because everything was filmed on location, which is amazing and fantastic. Again, I've recognized a lot of the places that were used as backdrops for the movie, and of course the main portion once Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams get to a certain point takes place in Reykjavik, which is the main city of Iceland. So again, I think Iceland plays as another character in this movie, and it was just very endearing, at least for someone like myself who loved visiting Iceland, to really enjoy. So think of it as, in my opinion, kind of like a love letter to the Icelandic people. So throughout the movie, especially in the beginning, you get to see the challenges and struggles of Fire Saga, and that's where the majority of the laughs of the movie come out. It's very reminiscent to like Spinal Tap, where it seems like everything they do, there's always a mishap that happens or something always goes wrong, and they've been kind of known for that. Apparently, they've been trying to enter the Eurovision contest for years. And ever since they were kids, once they saw the ever so popular ABBA win it that one year in 1974, they've always wanted to get to that pinnacle. Lars is pretty much the main musician of the group, where he plays keyboards, and Sigrid is the lead singer of the group. And you could tell that they did record a lot of their own singing, and with some help with other musicians as well. But the songs that were used in the movie are somewhat catchy, and you might find yourself humming it for like a good week or so. But I think out of all the songs that were portrayed in the movie, there's this one song that comes to mind called Ya Ya Ding Dong, and it seems to be a local favorite in Iceland, at least within the movie. And whatever venue they perform at, that seems to be the most requested song for them to sing. So like I said, if you're familiar with the comedies of Will Ferrell, Will Ferrell is Will Ferrell in this movie. He has that boyish humor, where it's sometimes over the top, and, his trademark fits and screamings and yelling. And, when he loses it, he kind of just runs all over the place. You will see that throughout the movie, especially in the first half of the movie, as they're getting themselves to where they need to be in order to be in the Eurovision contest. Rachel McAdams is probably the standout for me. I found her character and her portrayal of Sigrid to be very charming, very sweet. Like I've said before, Rachel McAdams seems to be very good at comedy, and she has pretty good timing, and it really shows in this movie. The one thing that really stands out, not only within her, but when both of them are on screen together, it does look like they're having fun. That's what kind of makes the movie fun as a whole. They play off of each other very well, and within their characters, they have a lot of good chemistry there, which also plays into the subplot of the movie. Pierce Brosnan makes an appearance in this movie, and he plays the father of Lars. He is that very strict disciplinary father who is very hard to please, and you could tell even from the very early beginnings that he was opposed of Lars going forward with this type of career choice of his. You see him constantly calling him idiot and all that, and the chemistry that Will and Pierce had is pretty on point, and you could really feel that they're like that father and son dynamic going on there. And Pierce does a really great job at being that Icelandic stoic type of person who really has no nonsense type of attitude. And sometimes when he pops up on screen, you hardly even recognize that that's Pierce Brosnan. That's James Bond, at least back in the day. But yeah, I thought he was like a pretty nice surprise to this movie. The one person that I felt didn't really truly fit in this movie is Dan Stevens, and I was actually surprised to see Dan Stevens in a role like the role that he played in this movie. He plays another aspiring and already somewhat famous singer, Alexander Litmov from Russia. And he kind of is I would say, the antagonist of this movie. You could tell that he, kind of has his own plan and plot, and of course he wants to be the top dog at the contest, and he sees these two Icelandic people and targets Rachel McAdams because of her beauty and the way she sings. And he definitely, like, just like you would see in similar movies, he plays that role of the guy who tries to go in between them and their dreams and trying to accomplish what they want to accomplish. However, when it comes to real full-on comedy, I didn't find him that funny. I didn't think Dan Stevens did a really good job. And the character itself was not a character that I really gelled with. And I thought it was, if anything, more of a distraction for me every time he was on screen. I understand why he's there, and the reason why he's there, and the reason why the character is doing what he's doing. It all works out and all plays into the plot of the movie. But I did feel like the casting was just a little off here, because out of all the scenes that Dan Stevens found himself in, I didn't really laugh once. But let's talk about the laughing and the comedy itself. The reason why I keep saying that you get a lot of the comedy in the first half of the movies, because that's where a lot of the typical Will Ferrell comedy really plays out. I found myself chuckling quite a bit, and I had maybe 2 moments that I can pinpoint where I laughed out loud. But the movie kind of takes a different turn halfway through. There's this one scene in particular, and without providing any spoilers here, it kind of turns into like a music video or a La La Land segment where everyone just bursts into song and all that. And that's the moment for me the movie changed. But the second half of the movie is where the comedy looks like it took a back seat in the overall story, and the drama really came out, and the pure purpose of these 2 singers and the struggles that they're now facing once they finally got into the contest and trying to achieve their goal. It's not a bad thing. However, I do feel like it kind of transitioned to movie to a different way, and now I didn't feel it was that much of a comedy, but more of like something a little bit serious. But it is in this change, you start to see more of the heart of the movie, and that's where the heartfelt moments come out, and the overall sweetness of the movie really shine, especially towards the end when things transpire between Will and Rachel's characters. Again, not providing any spoilers, but they get to a moment where they realize that, again, it's not only the love of the music, but the love that they have for each other. And that was something that is truly realized overall. So it was very sweet in how that transition was made, but it did throw me off a little bit. And again, I didn't find myself laughing so much for the second half of the movie. So is this the type of movie that I would recommend? Well, that really depends. How much of a Will Ferrell fan are you? How familiar are you with his type of movies and his type of comedy? I think that's going to play a lot into your decision and how well you're actually going to enjoy it. The movie reminds me a lot of Blades of Glory, where his character is so out of left field, and again, it's very similar type of story points where you have a character from a very young age aspiring to do something and his journey to get to that point. And that is this type of movie, especially for both Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. For the music part, if you are a fan of movies like Pitch Perfect, then this could definitely be a movie for you. I think the musical moments, and especially when they're in the contest and you see all the other countries and their performers, that is where things get a little interesting, and you do see some comedy there, because I do feel like they parody on a lot of the real performers and the type of European performers that we see coming out of these countries, how they're all very eccentric, they're all very unique, they're all very different and lavish in their own ways, and sometimes they're really way over the top. So I think they really did a good job at kind of parodying this, and you may find that very interesting, and it's a good part of the movie of where the comedy and charm really shines. But don't expect a huge laugh out loud romp of a movie here. This has a good mix of laughs and kind of, similar tropes you will find in a rom-com, to be honest with you, especially between the main two characters there. You see their journey from a very early on, and then you see them what get to where they get to, and what they realize at the end. And just like you see in other similar movies, it's the love for each other, the passions that they have, and the passions that they shared for so long together, only to make them realize that what was meant to be was meant to be. You do get that those moments of, well, one person may not listen to the other, and the other person has this aspiring dream, so why not help support that other person, and so on and so forth. So you definitely get a lot of this in this movie, and that's one of the reasons why I say this movie is a good mixture of cute and funny, but also very sweet and very charming altogether. And I think the main reason why it is that sweet and charming is mainly due to Rachel McAdams and the way she portrays Sigrid, the character in this movie, and how she kind of leads Will to get to that level and to be that perfect partner within this duo in the movie. The one thing I will say, however, if you do choose to watch this movie, is that it does feel pretty long. The movie clocks a little bit over 2 hours, and when I saw the running time, I was actually kind of surprised that it was that long. And unfortunately, you do feel it in certain parts of the movie. Primarily, like I mentioned, once we get to the midway point in the movie, that's where the movie takes a different turn from how it started. And that's where you could probably have, cut some scenes from within those middle parts, and leading towards the end, there are a lot of scenes there that I thought lasted way too long, that went on forever. And if you watch it, you'll definitely know which parts I'm talking about. So just buyer beware. At the end of the day, it didn't make me not like the movie, but it also didn't really help me in love the movie. So with that in mind, it's a movie at the end of the day where I was entertained, and I did find a lot of good moments through the movie, moments that I think about even a day after I watched it. But it's also a movie that I'm not going to say is one of his best, or something that you should probably rush out to go watch right away. However, with this time that we're in right now, and I'm sure everyone is looking for a good distraction and something that kind of like lifts your spirits up a bit, then this is probably the movie that will help you with that, because of its charm, its sweetness, and the bits of comedy that you see sprinkled out throughout the movie. Now, I don't normally like to give ratings to movies, and especially when I do reviews and things like that, but I feel like maybe it's something I should start doing to kind of give some sort of number equivalent to my thoughts and feelings of the movie overall. So if you were to ask me to rate this movie now, I would give it 3 out of 5 Icelandic hot dogs. And the reason why I choose hot dogs is because that is probably one of the more popular foods that you will find out there in Iceland. They do love their hot dogs. So if you do catch the movie, let me know your thoughts. You could chime in on the comments of this review, or DM me directly on Twitter, or catch me during my Twitch streams, since I stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I'm always open for conversations on any topic, so definitely catch me and chat with me there. But with that being said, thanks again for watching, and stay tuned to the channel for other reviews coming up. Catch you next time. Oh hey guys, thanks again for watching. If you want to check out my other videos, make sure to access them through this menu that you see on this side of the screen. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, or hit that logo you see right here on this side of the screen. I've always wanted to do that. Catch you next time.